Shegun Star Child, Black Egyptians, you cannot stop my fate. Are you a man or woman who's considering polygyny? Then this video is for you. How to have a polygynous marriage. Now, this video can be very useful to you depending on whatever stage of a relationship you're in. So you might be actually ready to get married, or you could be planning your life and want to have a blueprint for how to actually achieve this in years down the line. Either way, you can take note. Now, I will make a separate video, how to have a polygamous relationship, which is more about the general day-to-day of courting several women. But for now, let's deal with the actual marriage part. So, a polygamous marriage is actually very simple. It's just not that very easy. Now, let me say that again. A polygamous marriage is actually very simple. It's just not that very easy. I hope you understand that. So before I start, take a look at this.
Rise and shine, beautiful souls. So listen, we are the Rise family. I, of course, am Kevin.
And I'm Lacey. And I'm Jamie.
And they are my beautiful queens. Our relationship just went viral, and all of you guys, a lot of you guys had something to say, right?
This is Jerome. He fell in love with Jasmine. Jerome cheated in all his previous relationships.
I never felt like one female could amount to everything that I wanted. Jasmine was dope. She was able to cook. She was able to clean.
So the couple decided to open up their relationship. And now Jerome has 4 wives.
We don't have a maximum limit of people in a relationship.
But the outside world has scrutinized their way of life.
This old man is pimping y'all young, dumb A-words.
We started this polyunion together as 3 individuals.
We are all heterosexual.
He's everything that I look for in a husband.
However, they are sister wives.
Best friends, sisters, family.
This act
In a husband.
However, they are sister wives.
In a husband.
However, they are sister wives.
Best friends, sisters, family.
Now, I had to show you that because a lot of you ninjas for some reason think that you need to be a billionaire to have several wives, but that's not the case. And some of you ninjas think that you need to be either dirt broke poor in the village to have several wives, but again, that's just not true. There's several people living happy, fulfilling, wonderful polygamous relationships. So you need to understand that it can be done, it is possible, and I'm here to show you how. I'm making this video to educate and promote our African cultures and show you that there is actually an alternative relationship format from the normal badness of monogamy. You don't have to follow everyone else. You're entitled to your own happiness and you have a right to live your best life. We have an African way of life opposed to a Western or European way of life. Now, according to Patricia Dixon Spear, it's our fixation on Western paradigms such as exclusive monogamy, which is what breaks down our relationships, families and communities. Okay, so with that being said, I don't want to talk for too long and go off topic. So I'm going to delve into actually how to have a polygamous relationship. There's only 3 ways, there's only 3 steps you need to have a polygamous relationship. And that's actually why I said it's very simple, it's just not that very easy. The first one is to have a polygynous compliant fiance. So your fiance should understand fully, crystal clear, that you're marrying her. You may be marrying her first, but you have an intention to marry someone else who she may know about or is yet to come down the line. Yeah, it should be clear. There should be no problems about it. She should know that you're willing and able and wanting to bring someone else down the line. Yeah, you're not going to go into a hope strategy. Please, for the love of God, do not get into a monogamous marriage hoping that you can turn your wife around and get her to agree to a polygamous relationship. 2024, that's bullshit, yo. Don't do that. It's very risky. You could be playing with your life, playing with your money, playing with your assets. It's just not worth it. Be honest. Believe in yourself. Be honest with your wife and be honest with yourself. Marriage is for life. I truly believe that marriage is a beautiful sanctimony, and it's about connecting with your soulmate and soulmates. It's about growth. It's about love. Marriage is an ideal, and it's about love of self as African people. Yeah? So your wife should be fully turned on and happy that you're willing to have another wife. If she isn't, kick her to the curb. You don't need her. Send her back to the village. If you're a man who's truly serious about polygyny, then the first step is an absolute must. You have to have a wife who's down with it. Otherwise, it's not a polygamous marriage. What will happen is you'll be with this woman for however long of a time, and then as soon as you get a second woman, she drops out. The object of the game is to have several women, not one. Not do musical chairs. In polygamy, everyone sits in a chair. Alright? That's what we want to aim for. So you have to get a woman who's down with polygyny and is open to it. The second is to live in a country that supports polygyny. Alright? I'm going to get into that. I'm going to expand on that a bit later, but I just want to mention it now so it's clear. And the third step is to enter a customary marriage. So that is a legal or traditional marriage rights. You actually do the ceremony. And again, I will talk about this later, but if you are doing a customary marriage, it can be recognized legally by the country you live in, or it can just be a strictly traditional marriage, which is a private ceremony. If you do live in a country that doesn't recognize it, then you will have to do a common law marriage and do your common law rights and do things that way. But I will delve into that a bit later, not to confuse you. So that's it. Those are the 3 steps. With the marriage ceremony, just so we're clear, we're African, so we're talking about traditional clothing. You may or may not pay dowry to the family of the bride. You're obviously going to have some kind of family introductions in your wedding ceremony, dinner, dance, so on, respective of the culture you belong to. So whether you're Yoruba, Igbo, Ashanti, Luya, Sarah in Gambia, you're going to have your own traditional ceremonies to deal with when you get married. That's it. Those are the 3 things you need to achieve a polygamous marriage. I think it's worth mentioning now. I want to make it perfectly clear. We've spoken about all this marriage ceremonies and living in a country that supports polygamy and having... Marriage is as simple as 2 people standing under a tree with a priest or religious leader and getting married. It's as simple as 2 people committing, declaring and honouring their vows together. So, as far as I'm concerned, you can have 2 16-year-olds who are in school and they love each other and they literally say together in a classroom, in the boys' house when they come back from school, you can literally say to your woman, I love you, I want to commit myself to you for the rest of my life. She can say to you, I love you, I want to commit myself to you for the rest of my life. Whether or not you even have rings, that to me is a marriage. Now, whether or not it lasts or whether or not it goes a distance, that's another story. But to me, marriage is as simple as 2 people declaring their love for each other. Let's keep it real. Remember the movie Braveheart? A couple got married. The King of England won first dibs on the wife. These are the actions of the crooked and corrupt governments we're under. You can marry each of your wives individually, one by one, or if you already have 2 or 3 wives, you can marry them in one day. It's entirely up to you. It's still polygamous. Ephesians 5 explains that just as a church is subject to Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. If you understand this, you know that Christ is one and the church is many. This is a polygamous relationship. Someone can't say, oh, they alone are married to Christ, because Christ is married to the church, and the church has many people. So again, that's a polygamous relationship. In polygynous marriage, it's important to aim for the marriage license, right? In my own experiences, and I've spoken to several people in my life of all different countries, predominantly black, but one of the things that polygamy gets shunned down for is they say that as soon as the man dies, it falls apart. And that's mostly because the wives will fight over assets. They'll fight over who has the land, who has the house or houses, who has money from his business or estate. So for me, it is very important to do a customary marriage that is legally married. But even if you don't have access to that, you can still legally sort your life out. Legally, you can have a will, and there's nothing stopping you from giving 33% of all your possessions to wife number 1, 33% to wife number 2, and 33% to wife number 3. There's nothing stopping you from formulating a trust which will divide your assets up, right? Legally, you do have that option. So it's important to note that it is very important to aim for the legally recognised customary marriage, but if you can't, then do it the other way. If your country doesn't recognise your customary marriage for whatever reason, whether it's because you're a foreigner and you can only get married by special license, or they just don't recognise customary marriage legally, then you can do it the other way. You can actually do your own legal documentations. So you need to understand that we're sovereign. Yes, the state can do stuff. Yes, it is easy to do stuff with the state that is legally recognised, but we're sovereign beings as well. You don't necessarily need permission from the state to get married. You only need a marriage license to do something that would otherwise be illegal. And we know that's not true because it's ordained by God. Genesis 2:24 says, therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and there shall be one flesh. So if your state doesn't recognise it, then you can do your traditional marriage and then if you talk to a lawyer, you can get your will or your trust sorted out, and in that way your assets can be divided between your family. Okay, so we know that the second step in how to achieve a polygamous marriage is to actually live in a country that supports polygyny. Okay, so it would be a good idea to look at some of the countries that do support polygyny in Africa, just for understanding. Okay, now for me personally, I'm a Nigerian living in Kenya, and to be honest, it's one of the reasons why I actually came to Kenya or would have gone to Nigeria. I figured, look, if I'm going to live in a country and I'm actually serious about polygyny, I want to be living in a country that I can do it. There's no point. It would have been quite difficult for me to move somewhere where I couldn't do polygyny because it's a goal. Yeah. So depending on how serious you are and how much effort you want to put into it, it might be useful researching that for your own future life. Now, I'm going to try and explain this as the best way as possible, but here goes. The third step, as we know, is to actually enter into a customary marriage. Now, as we know, customary marriage is polygynous by nature. Okay, so we can let's not guess anymore. Let's look at Nigeria. So under the FAQ section of the EC2Biz website, the question is, what are the types of marriage? Okay, there are 3 officially recognized marriage options in Nigeria. Okay, however, the implications of each marriage type vary from the other significantly. 1. Customary law marriage, which is intrinsically polygamous in nature. This is very important. If you want to get married in the polygamous relationship, you need a customary law marriage. This is what you want to go for because it's polygamous in nature. You could do an Islamic marriage, but we're conscious black Africans out here. That's who I promote my channel to. Conscious black Africans, not Islam. You could do it, but this is what we want to aim for. And then thirdly, you have a statutory marriage, which is monogamous. Okay, your marriage type could affect succession rights, i.e. who gets access to what when you die. There's no record by government on customary and Islamic marriages. Now this is important. I want you to keep a note of this right here because we're gonna come back to it and realize why this is important. Okay, so you should understand that customary law marriage is what you want to go for because it's polygamous in nature. Now, I'm at another website explaining polygamous marriage in Nigeria, and again it says marriage under customary law is largely polygamous. A polygamous marriage is the union of one man with several wives. There is no limit to the number of wives a man can marry under customary law. Okay, now there's an important part here which might be useful to you. It must be noted, however, that many couples initially get married under customary law and therefore thereafter marry under the Act. This is valid provided the marriage is between the same persons. Okay, so you do a customary marriage which is polygamous in nature, and then you get married under statutory law, which is monogamous and which is legally recognized, right? However, the legal implication of the marriage is that it would have to remain a monogamous marriage. Okay, so you'll be going from a polygamous into a monogamous marriage by getting married under the Act, right? Section 47 of the Marriage Act provides that where a man is married under customary law with one woman and subsequently marries another woman under the Marriage Act, the second marriage is void. Okay, we don't want that. We want to remain into a polygamous marriage, which is customary. So getting married under the Act or statutory marriage or civil or Christian marriage isn't what we want. So there is a way around this, and I will get into that. That's Nigeria. I do have a bit more on Nigeria to give you. So we know that customary law, along with common law and Sharia law, allows for the legal marriage of more than one woman by a single man. Unlike those marriages recognized by Sharia, there's no limit to the number of legal wives allowed under customary law. So you can do a customary marriage and have 10 wives. There's no limit to that. Currently, polygyny is most common within royal and noble families within the country, and is largely practiced by the tribes native to its northwest, right? And I only found out recently that Nigeria has the 5th largest occurrence of polygyny in the world, after Burkina Faso, Mali, Gambia, and Niger. Okay, so that's Nigeria now. Let's move on to Kenya. Okay, so I have a website here to show you. Okay, new Kenyan law legalizes polygamy. Women's group applauds it. So this came out in 2014. In 2014 in May, the month of May, a new law that went into effect in Kenya this week makes it legal for a man to marry as many women as he wants. And the leading women's group is applauding it. Okay? President Uhuru signed the polygamy measure into law Tuesday, formally recognizing what has long been a cultural practice in the nation. So whereas a customary law isn't formally or legally recognized in Nigeria, Kenya has actually taken the steps to recognize polygyny. The bill initially allowed the first wife the right to veto the husband's choice of additional spouses. Male members of parliament successfully pushed to get that clause dropped. So even though you do have the option of getting a polygamous marriage, that option is still yours, whether your first wife allows it or not. So that's real polygamy, in my opinion, and that's good. So well done to Kenya for that. The president says marriage is the voluntary union of a man and a woman, whether in a monogamous or polygamous union. Okay, again, polygamy is an option. It's a choice. You don't have to do monogamy. And my job is to simply present the facts to you. Kenya said in a statement. The Marriage Act 2014 defines various types of marriages, including monogamous, polygamous, customary, Christian, Islamic, and Hindu marriages. And Christina Chiang, the executive director of Federation of Women Lawyers, says, "We are happy with the law because finally all marriages are being treated equally." Okay. And I have another, and this is another BBC website, again, discussing the polygamy law. So, Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta has signed into law a controversial marriage bill legalizing polygamy. It brings civil law where man was only allowed one life into line with customary law where some cultures allow multiple partners. Okay, and that's important because again, we can see that customary law has the same rights legally as a civil or Christian marriage. So that's very good. What I want to show you previously was this. So this is actually the state law website of Kenya, and it says Article 45 of the Constitution provides for the recognition of the family as the basic, natural and fundamental unit of society, and thus has to be recognized and protected by the state. Consequently, the Marriage Act 2014 was enacted to give effect to these constitutional provisions. The Marriage Act 2014 defines marriage as a voluntary union of a man and a woman, whether in a monogamous or polygamous union, and registered under this act. The Marriage Act 2014 recognizes 5 systems of marriage, namely civil marriage, Christian, Hindu, customary, or Islamic. So polygamy is already common in Kenya and a lot of African countries. So it's important to see legally how things actually work. Okay, so we've seen on those country websites of Nigeria and Kenya some of the ins and outs of polygamous or customary marriage, but it gets slightly more complicated depending on this. Now, because I'm a Nigerian and because my Kenyan soon-to-be wife, fiancé, is Kenyan, we can only do a marriage by special license. We are not allowed to do a customary marriage because I'm not Kenyan. Same way we went to Nigeria. If we go to Nigeria to get married, we can only do a marriage by special license because she's Kenyan and she's not Nigerian. So those countries are both corrupt, and it's the legal laws are limiting in that way. So if you're a foreigner trying to do customary marriage, it might be a bit more tricky for you. Okay, but it's not to say that you can't do it. You just have to do it another way. Okay. Basically, if you are a foreigner, the way to get around it is to do your marriage by special license. I mean, if you're lucky enough to have found your soulmate and she does want to enter a polygamous relationship with you, do the marriage by special license. Get it done, get it out of the way, right? Your only option really would be to find your first wife, do this marriage by special license, and then with your subsequent wife, your second, third or fourth wife, or however many wives you get after that, you're going to have to do a traditional marriage, right? I say traditional specifically, not customary, because it is, the customary part wouldn't be recognized. Okay, so you can do a traditional marriage. You can do a traditional ceremony in a hall, banquet hall, hotel, even your house or whoever's house it may be. You could do a traditional private wedding, your traditional wed, your trad, and you make your own marriage certificate. So it is important to note that we are sovereign beings, yeah? We're gods. We're like gods. we don't necessarily need permission from the state to get married. Yeah? Same way I explained to you Braveheart, where the King of England saw a newlywed couple, got his goons, his cronies, to bring the wife to him so he can get first dibs. That's illegal, right? Technically speaking, you don't need permission from the state to get married. A marriage license or a license of anything to do something, you only need a license to do something that would otherwise be illegal. So if you want to go hunting, you want to go killing, and the Bible says thou shalt not kill. So in order for you to get a hunting license, you would need to do it because you're transgressing the law and you're doing something which you've been told you don't need to do it. So I hope that makes sense. But we know that's not true because marriage has been ordained by God. Genesis 2:24 says, therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Okay, so if that's true, if God has ordained marriage, we shouldn't need a marriage license from the state. The term license is what throws the whole thing into disarray. It should be called a marriage, I don't know, a marriage, just straight marriage certificate, straight registration of marriage, not a marriage license. So if you do a traditional marriage with your second or third wife, even though you're not legally married, you could then consult your lawyers, get your will, get your trust, so that your second and third wife, there's a record of your union by law. So if anything does happen to you, you can actually, they can actually have some things, get access to your estate, get access to your will and your possessions if anything does happen to you. So it's really important to actually understand that. So you might be limited in your ability to get married customarily, but you do have another option, which is just to do a traditional marriage and go about it that way. So it sounds a bit tricky, but it's not really. It's just the way it is. Obviously, if you and your wife, if you and your wife or wives are all of the same country, then you can do a customary marriage with each one, and that can all be legally recognised depending on the country you live in. So I hope that makes sense. So I hope it's been useful mentioning Kenya and Nigeria to you. I do go in a bit more detail into the African countries in my previous video, Polygyny is African Culture. But this is just to give you a quick snippet of the overall legal process involved in a polygamous marriage. It's important to note that in a study of African societies, 97% of the societies surveyed practice polygyny. And that shouldn't be surprising to you, because we know that polygamy is the natural order of the African family structure. Polygamy is an African phenomenon. Polygamy is legal in 27 African countries. Yeah, so 27 African countries recognize polygamous marriages. There seems to be a battle in Africa between traditional versus Western values, such as Christianity, Islam, or consumerism, whatever it may be. Africa has to decide which one it will follow, because like the Bible says, a man cannot serve two masters. He will love one and hate the other. Say what you want, but marriage is a beautiful thing, and the numbers and the personal experiences we've all experienced or heard about show quite clearly that monogamous marriages were not built for African people. So that's why I promote polygyny within the African community, because it is the fundamental unit of society. Let the white man, let the Asian man do his thing, and we'll do us. I hope you've enjoyed and learned something from this video. Please like, comment and subscribe and share. Stay tuned for more exciting videos. Shogun Star, Child Black Egyptians. You cannot stop my fate.